Hello, people of the internet, and today I will be going over Anti-Fascism is Self-Defense by CrimeThink. It's a general purpose flyer put out in September 13th, 2017. Keep in mind that date's going to kind of be important for some context for something else that's going to be mentioned here. CrimeThink is loosely new is a it's a completely decentralized anarchist collective of activists who aim to essentially fight against the state, capitalism, fascism, etc., and so forth. This flyer is basically a defense of AntiFa. Anti-fascism means defending our communities from racists, xenophobes, homophobes, transphobes, and other bigots. Anti-fascist organizing requires no special skills. It isn't limited to any one political identity. That's true. You don't have to necessarily be a leftist to be anti-fascist, though I do think that most anti-fascists are generally very left-leaning. Like, I think that most anti-fascists range from anarchists to perhaps social democrats. Far-right groups don't actually want a dialogue. That's true, they don't. They aim to spread paranoia to escalate the ongoing violence against marginalized people. Yes, that's true. They don't care about being proven wrong. They just want to win because they don't like people who are not cis het white men, something of that, that they just want basically to have only people like them exist. Anti-fascists aim to deny them any platform for doing this, even when fascists use code words instead of openly identifying themselves. Yeah, that's the thing. Fascists and racist bigots and otherwise hateful people like that, they don't really identify themselves. They would never actually say like, "Oh yeah, I'm a racist," or they would never actually say like, "Oh, I'm a homophobe." They would usually try to hide that through some kind of through some kind of dog whistle. Like they would call themselves alt right. Hey, that's kind of one that's been going on for a while, you know? Or they might call themselves ethno-nationalists or something like that. The Nazis themselves called themselves socialists, even though they really didn't implement any form of socialism. But they called themselves that because socialism was popular at the time, and it was more popular than any kind of right-wing populism. So they decided to borrow rhetoric from the left to hide their actual beliefs. This issue is not free speech. It is whether we stand idly by while they recruit for violent attacks. That's true. That's very true. Though I don't think that it's good to give Nazis a platform to spread their ideas. I do think it is kind of fun to watch them get humiliated by people on the left. Like I like watching Vosh debate Nazis just because it's hilarious when they are, when they humiliate themselves by acting so stupid, and then then they sometimes end up losing followers because of that, which is like that's that's a step in a good direction, I think, to at least humiliate Nazis in public so that they look so dumb that people don't want to associate with them anymore. We must confront the fascist menace. Organizing against them doesn't make them stronger. Fascists have gained momentum precisely because they've met so little opposition recently. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes fascists would like to say that if you deplatform them, then it makes them stronger somehow, or that it makes them like that they'll come back worse or whatever. That's not really true. They oftentimes will just like they'll oftentimes just kind of fade back into obscurity, and no one really cares about them. Like, for example, when Stefan Molyneux um, got kicked off of YouTube for his racist and bigoted bullshit, um, he ended up just going to BitChute, where the only people who go to BitChute are usually Nazis. So it's not like he'll really have any power there or anything of that nature. Everyone must be free to decide for him or herself how to go about resisting fascism. The far right claims that anti fascists are the same as fascists because they meet force with force, but just as a firefighter is not a fire, an anti fascist is not a fascist. Yeah, that's true. And not all of Antifa's work is, just going around in the streets and beating people. That's actually a very small that's actually like a very small thing they do. They only would ever attack Nazis like in a self defense. Like, for example, if a fascist rally is ever held, they might have an insider in the group in their that fascist group um that would say, hey, they're these guys are about to hold some kind of a protest, or they're about to assemble, and we gotta make sure you guys gotta we gotta organize a counter protest against them. If typically things might get a little violent at a protest like that, because the fascists will typically start the violence, and then the anti-fascists would have to engage in some kind of violence in order for self-defense. That's a good thing. That's a positive thing. And even then, a lot of anti-fascist organizing is not really limited to violence. It's a lot of it is like hacking into fascist websites, infiltrating fascist groups, and exposing fascist members to the public. For example, finding people who work in some place and be like, they find that this person has posted some racist stuff, and then they do a little bit of digging on that person, and they find that they went to like fascist rallies, or they have like Nazi paraphernalia in their house, and they have a picture of them doing the Sieg Heil or whatever. And it's like they would be like, okay, this person is definitely a fascist, and then they would expose that person to their bosses or something of that nature and get them fired. Things like that. That's I think is acceptable. Police are part of the problem. They kill 1,000 people every year. They imprison and deport millions, disproportionately targeting people of color, tearing apart families and communities. Yes. Yes. When police coordinate with racist militias to run security at far right rallies, this is not an aberration, but an example of the normal relationship between police and fascists. The US government is already implementing the fascist agenda more effectively than a group like the KKK ever could. Keep in mind, this was put out in 2017 when Trump was in office. Trump was definitely a fascist. There is no doubt about that. He expressed a lot of fascist sentiments, like xenophobia, like um like far right populism, an obsession with a cultural other that they wanted that fascists would do this kind of us versus them. In um a lot of the time, like Trump would say it would target people of color, like Muslims. I know Muslim isn't a race; it's a religion, but he would target Muslims. He would target the whole border, the whole wall at the border with Mexico. That saying that Mexico is sending rapists and whatnot, and the Muslim registry and all that. Yeah, he was doing fascist stuff, and of course, banning trans people from the military is another, and trying to roll back health protections for LGBTQ plus people, and even proposing rolling back job protections for LGBTQ plus people. That is fascist stuff. I mean, whether or not he himself was doing it because he himself is a fascist, I mean, he most likely is, or whether it was just his administration telling him, hey, let's pull out, let's do some, let's implement these policies because, we just don't like people who are not cis het white men, that kind of thing. This is fascism. I mean, I can't think of put it any other way. That's fascist. That is very fascist, and it should be treated as such. It should not be treated as just as something that's harmless. It's not harmless. It will make people's lives worse. Don't count on a return to normal. It's not clear yet how far things will go. It won't help to call on the courts for assistance. Any power we give the government can end up in the hands of fascists. We need to establish bonds of solidarity across difference, learn to care for each other, and build the infrastructure we need to live and fight as the political crisis deepens. Yeah, that's a lot of liberals right now are kind of thinking like, well, now that the Democrats are in office, everything will go back to normal. No, we can't count on that. We have to still keep on fighting to make sure fascists never gain power again, and we still have to keep on fighting the system that allows for oppression and allows for far right radicalization to occur. That includes dismantling capitalism. That means improving the lives of all people, not just cishet white men or anything like that, but all people, all human beings in our country and around the world. We have to build solidarity among with our fellow human beings, for regardless of race, gender identity, or orientation, sex, religion, all that. It does not all None of that matters. We all have to unite as one people. We all need to dismantle the systems of oppression and power that have been allowed to exist thus far. Anti fascism means more than fighting in the street, as I mentioned earlier. It is an orientation toward life, a practice of collective resistance. It entails raising children to be compassionate, confronting racism in our neighborhoods, and sabotaging the efforts of far right organization. The stakes are high. To avoid acting is not only irresponsible but dangerous. This is why we say anti fascism is self defense. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Anyway, I would agree. I really like this little flyer, and check out Crime Think. I think that we can all learn a lot from them. Anyway, yes, I do believe that we need to take a very strong approach to dismantle any form of oppressive society, any form of oppression that exists in our society. Regarding the police part, I know that's going to sound really weird to a lot of people, but I will leave a link in the description that shows that the police do definitely target racial minorities at a disproportionate rate. But yeah, great flyer, and I would definitely think that hopefully this can prove that Antifa is not necessarily a bad organization, or is not bad at all. In fact, that Antifa is actually good for the world. That we need to have Antifa as long as we have any possibility at all that fascism could exist anywhere in the world, no matter what. We need to never let Nazi Germany or fascist Italy happen again. Never.